fear of rejection, I feel like it hinders a lot of, especially real estate agents, because they don't want to put themselves out there when in this business, that's like the number one thing you have to do is, put yourself out there.
Hello and welcome to episode 44 of the Smart Agents Podcast. My name is Michael Walter and I'll be your host. In today's episode, we are joined by William Patrick out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Just now a year into his real estate career, we spoke with William a few weeks ago all about his disciplined cold calling strategy and how it has helped him begin 2021 with more than a dozen closed transactions. Now, before we get into the day's featured interview, make sure you follow and subscribe to the show on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. You can find us on all major podcasting platforms from Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and the list goes on. Also, as you can see if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents YouTube channel. Click the bell to get notifications when each new episode is uploaded. And lastly, if you or somebody else on your team has an awesome story or tip to share with our community, send us a message at feedback@smartagents.com. We're always on the lookout for new stories to share. All right, on to the day's featured interview with William Patrick out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Really the way I like to start everything out is if you could tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're at in the country and kind of how you got into real estate.
Yeah, sure. So my name is William Patrick, was born and raised out here in North Carolina. Right now I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. Got into real estate because, I really like the entrepreneurship route, was always interested in, real estate investing, decided to get my license to kind of get my foot in the door. And I kind of realized, this real estate agent thing is a pretty good way to earn some income and learn some things along the way. So I just decided to do it. And, at first there was like a lot of just figuring things out, didn't really know where to start or what to do. Didn't really have a sphere to work being a young guy. None of my friends are, buying houses right now. So just started doing a lot of research on, lead generation and stuff like that. Came across Ricky Carruth, who, he's really big on cold calling and just establishing or creating relationships with property owners, really anybody, but just started calling a ton of people all day long when I first got started. And, it took me about, I think it was 14,000 dials to, actually get a listing from it. Because, at first you don't really know what to say or who to call, and you just start learning. So, now it doesn't take as long now to, get some leads from it because I know who to call. I know what to say. I know how to follow up and stuff like that. But,
right. So, kind of following, finding Ricky in that, how did that whole process go? How did you kind of join up with him and become, kind of start getting some of his coaching?
Well, I honestly just started researching stuff on YouTube, man, like how to generate leads, cold calling and stuff like that. And he was all over it. So I looked up his social media platform, saw him on Instagram, and in his bio, it says he responds to every DM. So I was like, all right, let me DM him real quick. DM'd him, and he was like, just talking to me about, what I had going on, told me to hop on the phone with him. So I called him, and he told me about this thing he had going on over at EXP, the Diamond Group, where basically everybody that joins it kind of gains him as a mentor. And it's kind of like he'll basically help me create a game plan, look at my schedule and all that stuff. So just talked to him for a little while, and he helped me come up with a good way to kind of navigate my first couple months into, becoming a top producer and where I want to be. And just kept talking to him, did what he said to do, and just actually followed through with it. And yeah.
That's awesome. It's so many times people will, kind of start something and they don't follow through with it. So it's awesome to hear that you did that and it's definitely working out for you. But also, this whole idea that you just sent him a message out of nowhere, it's basically a cold call, and that's what you're doing now. So it's really something that you're totally comfortable with. It's not something really new for you.
Yeah, man. I mean, fear of rejection, I feel like is, it hinders a lot of, especially real estate agents, because they don't want to put themselves out there when in this business, that's like the number one thing you have to do is, put yourself out there. So, if you can just get past that and not really worry about it, I think it could really help a lot of agents.
Right. Well, I mean, because at the end of the day, what does it matter? You didn't have that person's business before you called them. So, you
Right.
know,
Right. The
but
worst thing they can do is say they're not interested. That's the worst thing. Well, they could say things a little bit worse, but
right. Right. You can't take it personally.
right.
So when you were first starting out making all those calls, like what was that, what was that game plan? Like, how did you kind of get up to speed and start getting comfortable doing that?
It was just like everything else in life, man. Just practice and repetition. At first it was a lot of calls would not go well. I wouldn't really know what to say and stuff like that. So it took a long time to kind of get comfortable with the script. And just after a lot of calls, there's only so many things that people can say. So you just know exactly how to respond to every single objection, every single response. And it's just, I'm really comfortable with it now. So, I mean, I don't even like really pay close attention when I'm making calls at this point. I'm usually doing something else while I make calls. But yeah, I mean, just repetition over and over and over. I mean, when I first started, I didn't have any business and I went full time into it. So, I was making like probably between 500 to 800 dials a day. And yeah, I mean, just after so many, you just get comfortable and it just starts flowing a lot better.
Right. And like you said, you start hearing every objection and you start coming up with your answers to all of them. So as you were doing this, is that something that you kind of plugged into almost like a little database, or how did you keep all that kind of stuff straight to where it really was something you could practice and hone in on?
Do you mean like just the responses or like?
Yeah, kind of like how like with a script, is that something that you always kind of have up, just kind of like some little reminders to key in on, or, when you were first starting out? Obviously now you've been doing it so much that it's not something you need.
Right. Yeah, I mean, at first I definitely followed the script and I had to read sometimes. But the script I use is really, really casual. And it's just like, hey, is there anything I can do to help you? Okay, cool. If not right now, in 5 to 10 years, do you have an agent you would use? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Well, can I just stay in touch with you? Let me get your email, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Plug them into a weekly email type of thing. So, it's not like a super in-depth script with a bunch of different questions and stuff like that. So it didn't take me very long to get, to the point where I was really comfortable with the script. I mean, I'd say like after the first like week of making calls, I probably stopped looking at the script. But yeah, so I think using super intricate script where you're asking all these different questions and stuff like that, it can just be annoying if the person doesn't have interest. And what I'm really trying to do is just establish as many relationships as I can. So I'm not really trying to force anybody to sell or anything like that. If they want to sell, they're going to tell you. If they don't, then you just keep in touch.
Right. So how's everything been, how's it been going since you've gotten into the business? What's the business looking like?
It's going pretty well, man. I'd say, well, I really started in June of last year. And I think I got my first listing was like a lot, some like commercially zoned lot. And it was like right off of a pretty main road. I put a big old sign up and stuff. And, it hasn't sold, but got some other ones. And I think I closed like 3 or 4 transactions in 2020. And then when 2021 hit, all those leads that I had created in, that June to December period, those 6 months, a lot of them started cultivating, and then, it just kind of exploded. So like in 2021, I've closed 14 transactions so far. And I'm generating leads still every single day. So it's going really well. I think I've hit like about 3 million in volume so far in the year. And my goal is to hit 10 for 2021. So yeah, it's been going really well, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're definitely on your way to hitting that goal. Well, we're at the end of April now. So you're definitely on your way there. And I think that's great. All those calls that you made previous, it's all that's planting those seeds. And now those crops are starting to, be ready for harvest.
Exactly. In the spring when everything grows, right?
Right. Well, that's awesome. So the other thing, as you've started making all these calls and you're starting to get these clients and, these are now people that are going to be your past clients that in 5 or 6 years, when they're ready to move and upgrade or do whatever, you're the guy. So it's everything just compounds on itself.
Exactly. And, you do that's another thing, just not only creating a really strong relationship with them, but just putting your all into the transaction, helping as much as you possibly can, like for a couple of listings that I had when I was out mulching the mulch beds and, cleaning the house and just all kinds of stuff. I want my clients to know I'm willing to do anything I can to help them. And, that helps with referrals and, future business with those clients and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's a really solid thing that you can do as an agent, is just really like working as hard as you possibly can, Yeah,
definitely. And earlier you talked about, adding the people that do give you your email address, kind of setting them up in a weekly emailing. So what does that kind of campaign look like that you have going on?
So yeah, I just for the people that don't really have any type of particular interest within the next year or so, I just throw them in my database, and all those people get a weekly email, like a market update type of thing from me. It just has links to do their own little market search, maybe something that's new in my area, some new development or something like that, and then it'll have all of my active, pending, and closed deals for the year, and just ways to contact me and stuff like that. So it's nothing really super crazy. It's just a way to stay top of mind. Send it out once a week, every single Wednesday, at 9 a.m. every single time. So it's even if they don't open it, but they see your name come in that email every single time for the next 5 years, you'll probably be top of mind when they think about doing something.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's kind of like that whole, the billboard on the side of the road. Lawyers have that billboard up, and you could go your whole lifetime without ever needing one. But, that guy that has his billboard up on the main road that I drive by every single day, that's probably who I'm going to think of first.
Yeah, it's the first person you're going to call.
Yeah. So
exactly.
When, now that you are generating a lot more business and you are, out with clients and things like that, how do you make time to still do those cold calls?
Well, for me, I don't work with a ton of buyers. Since I'm cold calling, most of the people I'm talking to already own property that they might be thinking about selling. Still sellers, a lot of times they have to buy something else too. But I don't spend a whole lot of time doing showings. So, most of my business comes from listings. And, as listings don't take that much time and effort. Once you get the listing up and running, you just get your things going while it's under contract and stuff. But every single day from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., I'm making cold calls pretty much no matter what. So I know I'm going to get those 3 hours in every single day. And then, from 12 to 5, that's when I reserve time for like appointments and stuff. If I don't have appointments, then I'm back on the phone trying to get more appointments. So that's really all I do, man, is I just sit in this office and I make cold calls and I follow up and go on appointments. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm just calling. So
right. Well, and I think that's, it's so important to be disciplined like that too, to have it set every single day that this is what you're going to do. Because if not, as time goes on, you can kind of start dropping off a little bit here. And then all of a sudden you look up and in a month you haven't done anything,
right,
to cultivating new leads. Right.
You got to keep that pipeline going, Yeah. But yeah, I feel like a lot of agents spend too much time worrying about things that aren't going to generate business for them, And I think the number one thing every agent should be doing is generating business however they want to do it. Some people don't like to cold call, but if you don't like to cold call and you just like to do, I don't know, like direct mail marketing, then just find out ways to make sure you're sending it to the right people and, just sending those out and door knocking if they like doing that, just spending all your time generating business rather than working on your business.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that, that kind of brings up a good point, and bringing it back to what you're doing. How are you finding these leads to call? What are you using to kind of generate these phone numbers?
So, the main people I call are usually expireds. And I don't do the ones that have expired within like even the past year, because everybody's calling them. So what I've done is, I'll call people from 2019 all the way back to, I think my list is back to about 2013 now. And, believe it or not, those ones from 2013, if they didn't go back on the market, they had, interest in selling at one point. They were using an agent. And, if it was that long ago, they probably don't have a strong connection with them anymore. So you can find a lot of people that still might be interested in selling that way. So I really like those really old expireds. I do a lot of circle prospecting. Mm-hmm. So when I get a listing, I'll call a bunch of property owners just around the listing. I like to do it when it closes, call people and let them know, hey, I just sold a house right down the corner. Just wanted to see if there was anything I could help you with. So I do a lot of circle prospecting, old expireds. That's really it. I'd say 90% of the calls I make is expireds and circle prospecting.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I like that idea of going back to the really old ones, because like you said, you aren't, part of that whole bombardment that, these people that are, 30 days, 6 months, a year, are getting.
Exactly. Yeah. Nobody wants to get a call from you when their house just expired, So I'm not really trying to compete with anybody. I'm just trying to find people I can help that want to do something. So going back far has really worked a lot for me. I'd say like 90% of the listings I've gotten have been from old expireds.
Well, so what's that, situation like when you're going into that, after you've made the phone call and it's time to kind of start meeting with them, what's that like when there's been such a long period of time that's gone by since when they were initially interested in selling to now working with you?
Yeah. So, a lot of the time when it expired, 7 years ago, the property value has gone up a lot. And most of the time you'd be surprised they don't know what their property's worth. So that's the first thing I do is offer to make them a CMA to show them, what they'd be looking at in the current market. I'll send them the CMA through an email, and then I'll follow up with them the next day through a call, kind of discuss it with them. And then I'll tell them, hey, in order to kind of pinpoint this price for you, I'd really need to see it in person, and I'd love to meet you. Is there a time I can come out and take a look? And, from that point is when I really start diving into, well, how soon would you be looking to sell? Do you need to buy something else? That whole thing at the appointment. And that's kind of like been my system throughout, kind of how I follow up. And so, at the appointment is when I really find out exactly when they're looking to do something. But, just meeting them face to face, it just establishes that relationship. And then, they're on that weekly email, so they're not going to forget you, even if they don't want to do something for a year or two.
Right. Well, and I think also, like in your case, you started last June, like in the middle of this whole pandemic. So it's not like, you didn't have to adapt the way that you were doing something for years, to getting, with these meetings with people and, different restrictions and how, right. You've been able, like, you just kind of went in and you made your process in the times that we are in now.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if we weren't in the pandemic, I think I probably would have done it the same way, just calling people and trying to set up appointments. And when I started doing the appointments was kind of like a little bit after June and stuff like that, when it kind of died down. So, the appointments weren't really a problem or anything. But yeah, I remember when I first started, I was like, I'm really starting this whole real estate thing in the middle of this pandemic. But, I don't think it really mattered. I mean, the market's great. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking about, with that great market, getting into the business when the market is so hot, what are you doing for, a future where, how are you setting yourself up and preparing for when maybe things kind of cool down a little bit?
Well, honestly, I'm not going to change anything up. I think, Ricky always tells me, like, man, if you can get listings right now, you can get listings in any market. So I think, it'll definitely be harder to sell those listings in another market, but it'll be a lot easier to have a lot of them. So, I think I'll probably just be doing the same thing, man. I plan on, making these cold calls for probably about five years or so and building just a huge database. And then from that point on, I can probably just kind of systemize it and just, work my sphere database. So.
Right. Well, I think and I love that idea of having that, like that kind of set goal of this is what I want to do for this amount of time to build your sphere. Cause I think that, if you go into it without any kind of, parameters or goals or kind of a real set schedule of what you're wanting to do, like we talked about earlier, you can kind of float around out there without, things clicking.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I know exactly what I want to do in the next 5 years. And I want to get to a point where, I don't really have to make calls anymore. And, I want to really get into real estate investing, start buying my own properties instead of representing people that are doing it. And, I'm not sure how long I'll do the real estate agency thing. With EXP, you can build a really, really strong network of agents and stuff. So I'm planning on kind of getting that going. And not sure how long I'll be doing it, but honestly really enjoy it. So, hopefully it'll be for a decent amount of time.
So just kind of before we wrap up, tell me a little bit about, having a mentor and how important that has been to your career and getting it jump started.
Yeah, man, it's been huge. I mean, like when I first started, I didn't really have a sense of direction. There were people around me when I was at my first brokerage that, they told me, how to do this and how to do this and, work your sphere and this is how you handle these kind of clients and stuff like that. But having a mentor that's really going to help you learn how to, generate business and push you to work hard and stuff like that is huge. Because, I mean, the accountability is, really important. Surrounding yourself with people who, have goals bigger than yours that make you think you're not doing enough, I think is really important. I mean, you are who you hang out around. So, like now the only people I'm with are people that are, really trying to do huge things. So I think it's huge to give you not only a sense of direction, but, just a sense of like, dang, I need to go harder. Like I'm not working hard enough. So,
Yeah. Awesome.
Definitely big.
Well, cool. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me this morning.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I love doing stuff like this. So
I really want to thank William for joining us today, and I think it's awesome that he's seeing the payoff of all of his hard work and time spent cold calling. Now, once again, if you think you or somebody else on your team has an awesome story or a tip to share with our community, send us a message at feedback@smartagents.com. Well, that wraps things up for this episode, but remember, follow the show wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents YouTube channel. Again, I'm Michael Walter, and we'll see you on the next episode.